Hi everyone, Rob here with Precodecamp.com, and hope you're ready for another exciting challenge for us to kind of go through. Again, this challenge here will prep you for maybe something like a Fizz Buzz type of scenario. I know that's usually a common one that people will go through whenever they're beginners. So in this case here, we have an array worth of 10 numbers, and what you would like to do is you would like to write a function that will count out how many of those numbers are even. We're going to utilize a for loop to iterate over this, so that will give us practice with for loops. I know we can do this with other ones, and that can be a bonus challenge here for you. But we're going to use a for loop to iterate over the array, and each time it's going to go through the loop, it's going to check to see whether or not that number is odd or even, right? And if it's even, we're just going to increase a counter, so that way we know that, hey, this one's even. Let's go ahead and add it to the list of it being even, and we're counting it, right? So let's go ahead and write this out here. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to create, we'll create the array that we're going to use here. And for this case here, we'll just do let numbers equal, and then for now we'll just do 1 through 10. So 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 10. And obviously if we're doing this and we're sending it through a function, we should get 5 out of this, right? So the next part of this is we're going to write a function. So let's create a function here, and we're just going to call this count evens, and it's going to receive an array worth of information here. Okay, so I'll put the curly brackets on here just so that we can maintain scope. The next thing that we need to do inside of the function is we need to establish a counter, right? Because we need to count. We need to go through a loop, and we need to increase this count every time we go through. Now, the way to initialize a variable in here is we'll just do let counter equals 0. And that way, every time we run through this function, we know that our counter is going to be 0 there. Now, the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to loop through the array. Now, we're just going to use a normal for loop for this. And again, we don't know, because we want this to be expandable, right? Maybe we only want to send 1 through 4 through there instead of 1 through 10. And we need something that is dynamic to know how long or what the size of our array is. So we can definitely tap into the .length property out of numbers, right? So if I just did a console log here of numbers.length, and I save this and then I run this, we get 10, right? Because that's how big this array is. It's 10 in length. So that's how many times we need to go through the loop. So I'm going to go ahead and comment that out here. All right, so we're just going to do a for loop, okay? And then we want to initialize a variable here. Okay, and I'll explain this code. So we need to initialize I, which is the iterator. We're going to set that to 0. And we want to stay inside this loop as long as I is less than the array length that's coming in, right? We just did this right here, numbers.length. And then we want to use our incrementer, which is I++. Okay. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to throw in an if statement. So that if statement is going to look something like this, where we have an if, and then we want to evaluate the current array, the current number, the current index that we're at. And then we're using this special % sign that you see right here, and that's called the modulus, which provides us the remainder, right? So if I did, if the number in here was 8, okay, 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then it has this little % sign, means like we only care about the remainder. So the remainder of that is 0. So that's how we can tell whether or not it is an even number, if 2 can divide it into it evenly. And so this is going to be something that you want to put in your toolbox later on because again, as you're going through your beginner steps, and like I said, into something called Fizz Buzz, you're going to want to make sure that you kind of understand what the modulus does here for us. So we're just checking to see right here, this will give us if it is even, if it divides into it evenly. And if it does, hey, let's go ahead and increase our counter here. Now, many times starting off, you may not like the plus plus. You can definitely do counter equals counter plus 1, and that's the same thing. It means, hey, whatever counter was before, it's going to add 1 to it. So let's kind of step through this a little bit in our minds here. If our array of numbers is coming in, the very first one it gets to is 1. Okay, so is 1 divisible by 2 evenly? It is not, so it is skipping it. It moves to the next one, 2. 2 divided by 2, is the remainder 0? Well, it's going to increase our counter, right, by 1. Well, what was it before? Well, it was 0 before. And so as we stay in this loop, counter is going to continually to go up. If we get to 4, right, 4 divided by 2 is 0. The remainder is 0. And then we come in here and we're saying, hey, counter equals counter plus 1. Well, what was it before? Well, it was 1 plus 1 is 2. So our counter is going to continually to go up. So again, you can do counter equals counter plus 1, or you can do counter plus plus. It doesn't matter at this stage here. They both do the same thing. All right, lastly, to double check this, to make sure that it works, we can just do the following. We do need to put a return in here. So we need to return the counter, and then we need to actually call and use the function here. And so we'll do something like this, right? We'll do a console log of it. We'll save it, run it, and I'll put that in there. Now it's 5. Okay. Now you don't need to like have a variable up here in order to pass the array to that function. You can do something like this, and obviously 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 should give us a response of 0, a return of 0 there, and there we go. Okay. So hopefully you found this challenge useful. Feel free to like and subscribe. And again, feel free to take a look at our other videos on YouTube. And we also have an online course that allows us to help you navigate the fundamentals. So make sure you check that out as well. All right. So again, we'll see you next time.